Matt, can you give us how you're feeling at this point?
Honestly, Ken, I'm feeling so much better than I was. Obviously, I'm still tired. I'm still recovering, and I experienced some side effects of the medication. But I feel very lucky and blessed to be where I'm at, and things are going honestly as well as I could expect them to go. I've avoided a lot of the negative side effects, and the treatment that I'm on is literally something that wouldn't have been available a year ago. So, and it seems to be going very well, and I'm thankful for that because it's certainly a less impactful treatment, and things are going great. So I'm starting to feel a little more like myself.
Let's go back to October and when the news broke. I know that you were at the doubleheader of the Providence exhibition game for the men and the RIT women's game, and you weren't feeling well, and you thought you just had a cold. When did you realize that it was something more than a cold?
So I had actually been very sick for a month, if not longer, leading up to that game, and I had just been fighting through it. I'd been going to the doctors. I actually they treated me for a possible tick bite disease, and I had antibiotics. They tested me for COVID. I had an antiviral. I had been going to doctors for about a month. I'd just been feeling terrible, and it kind of kept getting worse. In the 2 weeks leading up to the game, I didn't even get out of bed all that much. And honestly, because of my weight and my age, I thought maybe I was having some sort of heart issues. And the week after that game, I was actually scheduled to have a stress test and some other stuff done because nothing else really seemed to be working. And I'd been going to my primary care physician, and they tested for pneumonia, they tested for everything under the sun. And I had actually pulled my kids aside about a week and a half before the game, and I told them, I said, guys, I don't want to scare you. I said, but this isn't normal. I don't want you to, because I hadn't, wasn't moving, I wasn't doing much, I was just tired all the time. And I'm like, I don't want you to think this is normal. I don't want to scare you. The doctors are working on it. They're going to try to figure it out. And, we'll see what's what. So, the hockey season started. And I'm like, all right, well, we'll see if I can, I'll try to work it. Obviously I look forward to the start of the season every year, and I tried to work it. And that particular day, I ended up working a double header. There was a women's game and a men's game, and there was an exhibition game. There was supposed to be a game the next day, and you saw me that day. I was obviously not in good shape. I was at the point where even just walking up and down the steps to the broadcast booth just completely wiped me out. So I worked that Saturday. Sunday, I was supposed to do the game. I didn't do the game. And Monday, I had to go back into the hospital for more blood work. And actually, while I was there, I passed out while they were giving me the blood draw. And they admitted me into the ER. And things are a little bit of a blur, but several doctors talked to me over the next couple of hours trying to figure out what was going on. And luckily, the cancer specialist, Dr. Belomo, actually thought I had something more serious. There's a certain type of leukemia that the blood cells actually kind of eat each other because my counts were so low. They were very concerned that I had this even more serious form of leukemia, but they eventually ruled that out, and they told me I had the ALL. And I got admitted to the hospital that day, and the rest is history.
How shocking was that news?
It's funny, in this day and age with WebMD, and anytime you feel sick, you start Googling and looking up symptoms. Leukemia never really crossed my mind. I was thinking maybe heart problems or, even other forms of cancer. Of course, you don't ever want to think worst case scenario, but leukemia never really crossed my mind. So I was very surprised. It's a non-genetic thing. It's just something that kind of happens. So it's weird because on the one level, it's obviously devastating news to hear you have cancer, but it could have been a much worse diagnosis. And it was just to finally know what was wrong with me, because I had been feeling so bad for so long, to know that I wasn't making it up. It wasn't anything at all. So to be diagnosed, it was a mixed bag. Obviously, it's stunning news. It's going to change your world, and you've got a long road ahead of you. But the flip side is it could have been a worse diagnosis, and at least we had a path forward.
Were you scared though?
Honestly, not. It's very funny. I wasn't really. I didn't know much about it, and while I was in the hospital, I'm starting to feel. I was obviously so wiped out. I eventually started to do research and reading on leukemia. Because of my age, the thing that I have, ALL, typically impacts either younger kids or older people. So people my age don't usually get it. The doctors were very optimistic that because of my age and my general health, I don't drink, I don't smoke. In general, other than being overweight, I'm not in terrible shape. Everybody was very optimistic. They made me feel comfortable. The more reading I did about it, the funny thing is, the thing I was nervous about the most is with the treatment, you have to get a port put into your chest. And that was the thing that freaked me out the most, because they, actually put something in and there's like a little hole in your neck. And eventually when I actually did that, it was no big deal. But
Your age, by the way?
I'm 47.
Okay. I know I visited the hospital the early stages here. What was it like just, being there and wondering what was going on?
It's, the hospital's a double-edged sword. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody at Albany Med. I mean, they do a wonderful job trying to take care of you and keeping you healthy, and everybody in the, the immunocompromised ward where I was did a fantastic job. But the other side of the coin is the hospital's not a great place to get a lot of rest, and that's a part of it as well. And, they're taking measurements, giving you medication, talking to you. When you're hooked to IVs, you have to go to the bathroom every so often. It's a hard place to get rest, and the first couple of weeks especially were kind of a bit of a blur, and everybody's calling you and texting you and trying to figure out what's going on. So it took me, the initial couple of weeks were pretty rough as I was processing and figuring out, and I was still obviously very, very sick. But as I was there and things started to calm down and I got medication and things started to get a little better, you get into a little bit of a routine. And actually it was kind of strange because I was there for 5 weeks for the first time, and I had my first bout of chemo and my spinal therapies and things of that nature. And you kind of get used to the routine and you're figuring out what's going on and how things are going to be. And by the time I actually had to leave, I was a little nervous because it's like, I'm used to being here if something goes wrong. And then, but finally, I got to come home and, be with my family and be in my bed and actually get rest. And it does make a big difference. I love everybody at Albany Med, and the job they did was fantastic, and I appreciate them. But the rest I got at home those first couple of weeks, nothing can beat it.
Did you have to go to other hospitals besides Albany Med?
I also went out to Dana-Farber in Boston, Massachusetts. Dr. Weiner is my doctor out there as we were trying to figure out my treatment and what we were going to do, because again, like this treatment I'm on now is very new. Typically what you do is get a bone marrow transplant, which I would have had done out there, but knock on wood, if all things continue to go the way they are, I won't have to go down that path. But if I did, I would be doing that out at Dana-Farber, and they were fantastic out there as well.
Were there moments during this time that you felt like, is it going to work, or you think this is going to be it?
I still feel that way, to be honest. What's weird is everybody kept telling me I was going to feel better. I had been sick for a month, for even longer before I went into the hospital, and I'm in the hospital, I'm getting treated, and I'm still like just, walking to and from the door. I still felt exhausted all the time and just crappy. And everybody was like, you're going to feel better, you're going to feel better. And even when I got home and I was getting some rest, I still wasn't really feeling better. And, at that, and I admit, I'm just tired of feeling this way. It's rough. You can't, it's very weird, because what happens is everything that you identify with gets taken away from you in the blink of an eye. Because all those things that I was, a hockey announcer, a businessman, a father, a husband, a homeowner, somebody, all those things that identified me disappeared, and I was just sick, and I mean, while it was nice to know why I was sick, it was also challenging to deal with that for the first couple of months, especially as I continue, chemotherapy especially takes a lot out of you, and it took a lot out of me. And, the side effects are different for everybody. You can never really prepare yourself, and the side effects were pretty tough. So yeah, a couple of months in, there was one particular moment where I had a little bit of a breakdown, and it's just like, am I going to feel like this forever? Because this is rough. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to live like this.
Did it feel weird losing your hair? Because I know you've had long hair the last few years, a ponytail and all that stuff.
Yes, the hair thing is very funny. I have a long history with my hair because my father was bald very young, in his 30s. And so my entire life goal as a teenager and a kid growing up was to have hair at 40, okay? Because I was convinced I was going to be bald like my dad. So I have, as you know, I had a lot of pride with my hair, and during COVID I grew it out long and all of that, and which was a lot of fun for me, and I liked having it. So it was definitely, and it was strange because it wasn't my hair that fell out first. I was rubbing my beard one day. I was in the hospital, and I was just rubbing my face, and just hair started flying out. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to wait for it to come out in clumps when I touch it. So I went and my wife helped me shave it, and I shaved my beard, shaved my head, and honestly, it fit in very well with you guys and Josh and everybody at the rink, because everybody's bald, fit in with my dad. And all things considered, I don't think I have a bad bald head look. Not everybody can pull that off. Everybody told me I look good bald. We'll see what happens with the hair. It was not the thickest hair in the world before all this went down, so I'm curious to see what happens. But I have to admit, I was pretty excited when it started to come back in.
Yeah. Talk about your wife, Abby, and the family, how they've been much of a rock for you.
Yeah, I can't say enough. The kids, when they were first told, they're scared. Kids, whenever they hear about somebody having cancer, they always assume the worst because they're kids and that's what they know, But they've obviously adjusted as well as can be expected. My wife, I honestly can't say enough about her, because not only my mom had been sick and she had been staying with us before all this went down. My wife Amy was a huge help with that, and then she had to transition right into me being sick, and it's a lot to put on somebody. All of a sudden she's taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, taking care of me, just coming off of taking care of my mom, and when all this is done, I'm hoping to do. I can never make up for it, but I certainly couldn't have done it without her. And I'm very lucky to have her.
They declared that you're in remission yet or not?
So the way it works is the treatment I'm on. I'm taking Blincyto, is the drug, and it can theoretically take 2 to 5 cycles. I'm in between my first and second cycle. 2 cycles is the normal amount. So I'm in remission now. Next week I go back into the hospital, hopefully for the last time, for a couple of days, and they hook me back up to the medication for another 4 weeks. Then I'm off of it for 2, and then I get another biopsy, and if that comes back clear, I'm officially in maintenance mode for 2 years, where my treatments are much more sporadic. My blood draws are much less frequent, and things of that nature.
How much have you missed doing the games?
Oh my God, it's so weird. As you know, I've been there a long time, 20 plus years. It's kind of my home away from home. And especially this season, being the last season for Messa Rink, it was so hard to not be there, and it felt very weird to watch the games on TV. And Andrew Santillo has been filling in for me, and he's been doing a fantastic job. But it's hard for me not to be there. I have to admit it. But also I got to focus on getting healthy, and that's what I'm doing. It's I'm looking forward to possibly calling a couple of games before it's all over this year, and I'm really looking forward to being in the new building next year.
Friday, what's going to be like Friday for the Cornell game?
The atmosphere is obviously going to be insane. Cornell travels very well. Last weekend of the regular season, last couple of home games at Messa Rink. I'm planning on attending. I've got some family coming with me, so it should be a great time.
What will it be like to be back in the broadcast booth?
Well, I'm not going to call the game this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not this weekend.
Okay.
If all goes really, really well, I'm hoping to possibly call the playoff games.
Okay.
This weekend, I'm not going to call the games. I hope I'm not too rough. What's funny is even just being at the rink a couple weeks ago and talking, my voice was shot by the end of the night. And just from talking to people, it's just because I've been in hospital, I've been home, I'm not talking all that often. So it's funny how even your broadcast voice gets out of shape. So I got to do some warm-ups, get myself back in shape. I'm certainly looking forward to being back on the air. Hopefully I'm not too rusty, but I've been doing this a long time, and I think I'll be all right.
Your most memorable Messa Rink moment?
Probably, it's tough because there's a lot. The overtime games are up there, but the one that I think I remember the most is the first playoff series win over Clarkson back in 2007 when they won their first playoff series. To me, that was really the first step in what Union would eventually become over those next several years. But there's so many. Winning the Whitelaw Cup, the regular season titles, some of those big games, but the Clarkson series really stands out to me. The Yale 5 overtime games, they stand out to me as well. So many great memories at Messa Rink. I'm going to miss that place. They don't build them like they used to. I'm looking forward to the new rink, but obviously I've got a lot of memories there.
I think I know the obvious answer to this, but what is your most memorable moment calling a Union hockey game?
Oh, obviously, it's when they won the national championship in 2014. It was such an amazing feeling. And that game was an incredible game. It was a barn burner game, as you recall. And when they've put in that goal to make it to go up by 2 is the feelings. The craziest thing about all of that is, we've talked about this in the past, is whenever we felt like Union would win the national championship, it would be this. Even when you fantasize about it, it would be the Cinderella story, this huge underdog thing. And the craziest part about it is when it really sunk in during that game that Union really was the best team in the country. And I think that was the part that was a little surprising to me. But obviously to call that game and to be there and to see the team win the national championship was amazing.
Well, Matt, continue good health. Can't wait to see you back at the rink and calling games.
Very quickly, Ken, thank you so much. Thanks to you. I'd also want to thank the Union hockey community, Union College and Union hockey community has been so generous and so good to me. It blew me away. I wasn't expecting. Not that I expected people to be mean to me. I didn't expect that. But people have gone so above and beyond with financial donations to help out during this with the GoFundMe and stuff like that, and calls and visiting me at the rink or at the hospital. Tim Mayer, a couple of the guys from the team came to see me. The coaching staff, everybody involved in the Union hockey program has been so good to me, and it's meant so much to me. It makes me emotional even just thinking about it. It made me feel, like a part of something bigger, and that's part of being the Union hockey family. And I was always proud to be a part of it and be associated with it. But how they've treated me, really brought it to another level. And I want to thank you as well, and for your coverage and your help. And Brian Unger, obviously, what you guys have done to help me has meant so much to me and my family. And so I want to thank you for that.